Window World is proud to present Kevin Keatsman Has Issues. Simply the best for less at windowskansascity.com.
Have you ever heard of a doctor sending somebody to the hospital for dehydration? It's got to be pretty rare. Now, have you ever heard of a hospital keeping somebody overnight for dehydration? I haven't, and I've been around dehydrated athletes, staff, and fans my whole adult life. Now, it doesn't mean there's something really wrong, but I sure don't believe that Andy Reid went to KU Med for dehydration and stayed there almost 24 hours. It's not our right to know, but something else is going on here. Will the media even try to find out? Meanwhile, the Chiefs are set to sign wide receiver Josh Gordon, a good player if he can still play. Gordon's been suspended more seasons than he's played. 6 times this guy's been booted. That was after he got kicked out of Baylor, which is pretty hard to do. This is really high risk by the Chiefs, and it shows how desperate they are to find another receiver. And what's all this outrage towards the Cleveland fan that wants $10,000 for Salvy's record-setting baseball? Would you ask the fan to hand over his car to Salvy? How about his wife's wedding ring? Baseball's a funny thing. That ball becomes the property of the fan immediately. We'll discuss here today how these things should work out. It took me a while, but I finally broke down and looked up the definition of the term disinformation. See, it's confusing. There is a difference between disinformation and misinformation. I should have noticed all this when the Dems first broke it out because they know exactly the difference because they're the masters at using it. And if you don't think the world is upside down, wait until you hear about colleges that are actually promoting segregating black students, and somehow they all think this is good and honorable. Brought to you by bstock.net in Olathe at 14680 South Flaming Road. Right now, they have the best prices ever on the most upscale Samsung televisions. These are the biggest and the brightest, perfect for gaming, movies, sports, lowest prices ever, finest televisions made on earth, Samsung, high-end, bstock.net on sale. That's online or visit the showroom, 14680 South Flaming Road in Olathe. Joslin's Jewelry, 95th and Antioch, online at joslinsjewelry.com. Joslin's is the jeweler you'll recommend to your friends and family. Great family-owned business. Fall is a time to fall in love, says Gary Joslin. And if you go in there and ask for Gary or Dave or any of the non-commissioned sales staff, they would love to hook you up with something really nice and shiny this fall or this holiday season at Joslin's Jewelry, 95th and Antioch. Back Nine Development, custom home builder, commercial properties, room additions, Solheim Condominiums at Grand Mirror in Manhattan. A couple listeners of KKHI have already signed on and purchased. Great investment properties. A lot of different ways you can use these condos. They're great for football weekends. They're great as a second home. They're great as investment properties or rentals. They're great for your kids if they want to go to college. Back9development.com or call TJ at 785-236-0161 for Back Nine Development. And Fry Orthodontics online at fryorthodontics.com. You can visit your orthodontist as early as age 7 and get a free growth check appointment. 90% or more of kids don't need braces or Invisalign until all the adult teeth are in at age 11 or 12. But you can visit early and go through the progress of how this is working out for your kid. No dentist referral is needed. Invisalign is the same price as braces. Take your young kid, have them checked out, and see where you are with Fry Orthodontics online at fryorthodontics.com. All right, Andy Reid, the Chiefs haven't said it, but ESPN reported, so they leaked it to ESPN, that Andy Reid was simply dehydrated. If that is the case, and that's what they're going with, why did he go to the hospital and why did he stay all night in the hospital and much of the next day? I'm curious about this one at KKHI. Hit it.
Sports, politics, life. Buck Roofing presents Kevin Keatsman Has Issues.
One of the things we talk about here at KKHI a lot is the lack of skepticism within media in 2021 and how this has all changed. We'll get into it in pretty good detail in the second half when we get into some things going on politically in Washington, D.C., because there's so much going on Capitol Hill, so many different things that they're trying to fund, pass, pay for. It's entirely confusing to the American public. Some people call it disinformation. It's misleading on purpose. There's a lack of curiosity in the media. There's a lack of questioning of what's going on, and where it does occur, it occurs in very small spaces because there's so much agenda-driven media now. There is no real journalism that is mainstream, that is corporate. It's all one-sided. We want the country to be this. We want this to be this way. And I see this happening a lot in sports too. And I've got a couple of stories here that I'm going to prove this on. And this is where I get into trouble with a lot of fans. And I understand why fans get upset with me when I have opinions or bring things up along this regard. There's two giant celebrities, sports celebrities in the Kansas City area that we will talk about here. And the coverage, in my opinion, from the media is off base in both cases. And it's simply slanted by whether you're a fanboy or not, whether you just are, you're in the business because you want to be around the team. You want to be in good graces with them. You want to be their friends. You want to be buddy and feel like you're part of this. And if there's ever winning, you feel like, oh yeah, I was part of that. And, I've never been like that. I've never been a picture taker, an autograph seeker, or any of these things. That's not been my thing. So the two big mega giant sports celebrities in Kansas City are Andy Reid and Salvador Perez. And this week we have cases in coverage of each of them where I'm going to take a different approach and maybe have a much different opinion than anyone else that you would read or listen to. And I run the risk of upsetting you, but I also understand that there's a reason you listen to this podcast, and you know what I'm about, and you know what I say, and you know that I'm a truth teller. So let's start with Andy Reid. Andy Reid, they lose a football game in 92-degree heat on Sunday. He's 63 years old. He is overweight by a lot. Okay, this is not the average American who's 10 to 15 pounds overweight. That's not Andy Reid. He has fought this his whole life. He's self-deprecating. He jokes about it. And we know that when COVID happened, he was asked questions about, hey, are you more at risk than others? You're in an age group that is higher risk. You're in an obesity level that's higher risk. You've got these issues. A buddy of mine says to me before this happens on Sunday, he said to me over the last week, he says, have you noticed Andy Reid, when he's doing news conferences now, that his breathing doesn't sound good? That something's different? That he's doing a lot of that? And I said, I haven't watched all of his news conferences that closely, but I'll go back. And I went back and I looked at a couple of tapes and I'm like, yeah, I see that. And I thought, no big deal. Andy Reid's 63. He's overweight. There's a lot of allergies going on this fall. I've had some trouble breathing this fall because of allergies and sneezing and things like that, and I've been stuffed up more than usual in the fall. I've never really had fall allergies until this year, so I don't know what's going on with the ragweed and things like that. Maybe you're in the same category. So I kind of brushed it off. And then this event happened Sunday, and I'm watching the football game with him, and the game's over, and I do my podcast, and then we're back together afterwards. After I'm done with the post-game podcast, I go, he just lives down the street. So I go back, and we're hanging out, and we see this thing come out with Andy Reid, and he says, that's crazy because I know that he hasn't been breathing right. And I said, well, going to the hospital is unusual. It's not completely out of the ordinary that Andy Reid, I said, look, this to me, if you're asking me, this sounds like dehydration. He's a big man. He's an older man. He's a heavy man. It was 92 degrees. I never see him getting a drink of water on the sideline. I don't know if you do or not. The camera's on him the whole game. I go to games. I watch him. I never see him go back and get the Gatorade like everyone else. I don't see Andy hydrate. I don't think his normal routine can be particularly healthy if he's in the shape that he's in, period. It's his life, not mine. He can live any way he wants. So that's fine. I'm not judging. I'm merely commenting on what I see. I said to the group of people that were there, I said, I'm sure it's just simple dehydration. And, maybe they wanted to, for precautionary reasons, do whatever. Let's go get him checked out. And then I started thinking some more. They have everything at Arrowhead Stadium you could possibly need. It's pretty much a hospital there. They have the best doctors in the city that are team doctors. They're there tending to him. This is after the game. Players get dehydrated all the time. They give him a really quick IV. They're hydrated immediately. It's taken care of. I'm sure they did this with Andy if he was dehydrated after the game. I'm sure they gave him the IV, and I'm sure they fixed that. But he goes to the hospital, and I think, okay, that's fine. They got him in a nice air-conditioned ambulance. They got him to the hospital. They got him cooled off. They didn't want him doing his media. You're not doing any of this other stuff. Let's get you out of here. So what I fully expected was an hour later, a tweet that the Chiefs say Andy's been released from the hospital and is back home, and he's fine. He'll be back to work tomorrow. That's not what happened. Andy Reid spent the night in the hospital by all accounts, and I'm going by other people's accounting, this is not my inside information. By all accounts, the Chiefs leaked to ESPN that he was simply dehydrated, that he's stable, he's well, he's feeling good. But then he spent the night in the hospital. And he didn't get out in some time until not really early on Monday. It's not like he got out at 7 a.m. The reports came out later in the day that he'd been released from the hospital. He was expected back at work either Monday night or Tuesday. He won't do media until Wednesday. And so I told my friends, I said, look, I'm going to do this on the podcast. I'm not a doctor, but I've been around sports my whole life. I've watched this stuff. I've got 35 years experience seeing what happens. You don't keep a healthy person in the hospital overnight. You don't. You don't keep a dehydrated person in the hospital overnight. You hydrate them and you send them home. So now as I think about it, the decision to take Andy from the stadium to the hospital was decided by the best doctors in the city, University of Kansas Health System. I'm not talking about athletic trainers here, who are great. Rick Burkholder and his staff, they're great. The athletic trainers are great. They've got big-time doctors from the University of Kansas Health System at Arrowhead every game day to make critical decisions in case something really bad happens. A player could have a neck injury. Certainly football players have died on the field. It's hot, dehydration, all kinds of issues can happen. There are outstanding doctors at the stadium. These doctors evaluated Andy Reid after the game, and they put him in an ambulance. They sent him to the hospital, where the doctors at the hospital said, you're staying overnight. And I don't think this is getting any play. I don't think it's getting nearly enough attention. And I know what the Chiefs will do. This will get swept under the rug. Nobody will question it. Nobody will say, hey, wait, this sounds a little fishy. What's going on here? What, it's his private information. I'm not saying, and I'm not suggesting we have the right to the information. It's Andy's personal health. It's his personal life. So let me defend Andy Reid 100% on this. He can do whatever the hell he wants. And if he wants to be sick and have a medical condition and spend the night in the hospital and go right back to work, that's his life. He's made that decision since he's become a coach. He's decided everything in his life is pushed to the side. I'm coaching. That's his life. It's America. I fully believe in that. I merely want to point out, and we'll get to Salvador Perez here in a moment, because there's kind of a similar story going on there. I guess I've made my name as getting ahead of stories, being out front of them. I'm curious. I don't understand things. I ask questions by nature. I want to know. I'm a curious Chiefs fan. I want to know what the hell happened. I do not accept the Chiefs statement. I don't. In any way, shape, or form do I accept what the Chiefs are telling the public. I know them too well. They're not unique. Other teams do the same thing. But the Chiefs, on a scale of 1 to 10, on how much disinformation they will put out, they're close to a 10. They don't care. They're a lockdown state. They're the Soviet Union. The Chiefs, the way they operate as a business is like the Soviet Union. They don't, we'll get to Josh Gordon in a moment too. They're going to sign Josh Gordon. Well, okay, what are we going to do in this town? Are we going to talk about how he's a 6-time loser? He's actually been suspended and kicked out of the NFL more times than he's played seasons? No, we're just going to celebrate that they have a 6'3" receiver now. I'll get there. But the Andy Reid story is a compelling story because we don't know, and we won't know. They're not going to tell us why he spent the night there. They're not going to tell us if there's a condition. When you see signs of things that could lead to something bad, you must think about it and act upon it. The Chiefs have a long history, at least a 30-year history since I've covered them, that there are bad things going on and we don't care. We're going to push ahead and say everything's okay. We're not going to care that Tamarick Vanover and Bam Morris are dealing drugs out of the locker room. We're just going to push forward and send Vanover back there to return kicks. We're going to keep doing this. We're not going to care if we have a linebacker that has, abuse problems, and we know he's been abusive to women, and he's got a problem at home, and all. We're just going to keep, just come to work, put everything else in your life behind you, come to work, focus, practice, and go home. And on game day play, we're going to ignore it all. And next thing you know, you've got a murder-suicide in your parking lot. This is what the history of the Chiefs is. We're going to fire 9 defensive coaches because the defense sucks. But we're going to keep Britt Reid, who we know is an addict. a proven addict. We're going to keep him because he's the coach's son. He gets to stay. The other 9 are all fired. We know he's an addict. A little over a year later, year and a half later, he almost kills a little girl driving drunk. This is the way the Chiefs operate. Hate me for saying it if you want. Love the team on the field, but understand it is not what you think it is. And I'm telling you right now, there's a red flag. Andy Reid spent the night in the hospital. Something isn't right. Now, I'm not a doctor. I'm not even, I don't know. Maybe they didn't like his heartbeat. Maybe they didn't like his breathing. Maybe his blood pressure was too high. And they said, it's not just dehydration, your blood pressure. There's a problem here. Let's get you in. Let's monitor you for precaution. Again, all of this is abundance of caution, right? I get that part. But they made the decision to admit him into the hospital and keep him overnight. That can't just be dehydration. It simply can't be. The dehydration had to cause something that the doctors didn't like. It is not our right to know the information. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying the media have to, that the Chiefs have to give this information to the public. This isn't the president of the United States. The Chiefs are a private organization. Andy Reid can have a private life. And if he's got health conditions and is not well and wants to keep working, that's up to him. And if the Chiefs organization wants to do that, fine. And this could be something incredibly minor. It could just be that his heart was going beat, 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 or something like that. And they were like, hey, we haven't noticed this before. We know what this is. It's something pretty simple. We've got this pill or whatever. We'll have a heart doctor double check. But I would thin your blood, whatever it may be. I literally had a friend a couple weeks ago that had it's described as a mini stroke. His vision was blurry. And so he went to the hospital. It was the only thing he had. His speech was not impaired. He didn't have anything else. And they get him there and they start analyzing, why is his vision blurry? And they're like, well, we think you had a little piece of something roll through your heart where maybe it's coagulating a little bit and go somewhere where it caused this, and you would just call something like that a mini stroke. He didn't grab his arm. He didn't get paralyzed anywhere. He didn't fall to the ground. He just, my vision's blurry, and I can't fix it. He goes to the hospital. They put him on some sort of a blood thinner. He's feeling absolutely perfect. 3 days later, he goes to Wisconsin for the Ryder Cup. So I don't want to make a big deal out of this and say there's some terrible thing with Andy Reid, but I don't think it's right that the media should just accept what the Chiefs say and we just move on. If you're really a fan that was concerned that Andy Reid was at the hospital, if you really like that, you should be concerned that there's something going on here, and maybe, just maybe, he shouldn't be back at work. Maybe. I'm not saying that. I'm just, I've watched the Chiefs time and again. We have known bad situations, bad things are going on at Arrowhead. The Chiefs ignore them. They tell the public everything's fine, and then really shitty things happen. That's the history of this organization. It didn't just Clark. His dad was the same way. He learned it from his dad. That's the way they ran the organization. Bad things happen at Arrowhead. I'm not talking about wins and losses. Bad things happen within that organization. Really bad things. You have no idea how many issues have been settled with money out there. From sexual harassment, workplace environment, the different thing. It's a toxic place. It has been for a long time. It's better now than it's ever been, but it's 2021. It should be. It should be. I ain't buying this. I am not buying that Andy Reid was dehydrated and he's fine, and that's it. I've seen too many people dehydrated at football games get the IVs in the locker room, and 30 minutes later, they're just fine, and they go out and they do their news conference, and everything goes on. I don't remember somebody dehydrated, and there's nothing else. Okay, remember, the Chiefs haven't said that he was dehydrated. The Chiefs have said he's well. The Chiefs leaked to ESPN that he was dehydrated, and that's all. And ESPN, of course, runs with it. And so this is the same thing the Democrats do. To be honest, it's what they do. It's the disinformation campaign. We're going to leak his dehydration. Everyone will forget about the story nationally in a couple of days. Andy Reid will be back to work. The crawl on ESPN will say, Andy Reid back to work after dehydration Sunday's game. And nobody will wonder, well, wait a second, why dehydrated did he go to the hospital, and why did they keep him overnight? Nobody will ask. I'm just the guy that's always curious, and I don't believe what they tell me. I just don't. I've seen too many bad things happen after they say it's going to be okay. Andy Reid is scheduled to meet with the media on Wednesday. Well, I mean, it'd be a fairly simple and easy prediction to predict that signing Josh Gordon is going to be a bad outcome for the Chiefs. But to be honest, he hasn't really hurt other people. If they're going to test him every day or if they're going to give him a driver, whatever, I'm okay. Josh Gordon has basically hurt himself his whole life. It started in college at Baylor, multiple drug offenses at Baylor. He was kicked out of Baylor, for God's sake. Do you know what Baylor was in like 2011, 2010, 2011? You know how hard it was to get kicked out of Baylor? All due respect to my Baylor friends. Do you know how hard it was to get kicked out of the Baylor football program? And Josh Gordon pulled it off. He then got to the NFL, where in 2013 he led the league in receiving, 1,600 yards. He is allegedly or reportedly signing with the Chiefs on Tuesday and becoming part of the Chiefs program. He's had DUIs, drug arrests, possession arrests, failed drug test, multiple teams. He has had 6 suspensions in the National Football League and only played 4 seasons. So he's got more suspended time than playing time. There is no denying his talent. The only question is he recovered? He also took a year off for mental health, was treated for mental health issues. This is a person in personal peril most of his adult life, most of his adolescent life. And we hope and pray that Josh Gordon is not an addict anymore, that he can come here and play football and be really good for the Kansas City Chiefs. It would be a great story. But the Chiefs are about the 5th team that have thought that. They're desperate for a receiver. Again, I hate to sit here and toot my own horn, but we talked in this offseason. The Chiefs are desperate for a wide receiver. I know you don't think so. Mecole Hardman runs a nice little shovel pass or end around. Byron Pringle every now and then can find his way open, but he dropped a couple balls the other day that you wish he hadn't dropped and don't think he should have dropped. You know, you've got a couple of players that are okay, but they need another guy. Teams are taking Tyreek Hill away. They're playing deep. Tyreek Hill is not getting deep because the 2 deep zones, it's not affecting Kelsey as much, but Hill's out of the game. Hill's 5 catches, 53 yards, no touchdowns. Every team in the league will give Tyreek Hill that. You got to have somebody else that can bust you wide open. Chiefs know that. I understand from a football standpoint why they're doing this. I don't know if the guy can still play or not. He's been out for a long time. He has been reinstated by the commissioner. Every team has the right to sign him. The Chiefs are going to do it because the Chiefs don't care if this blows up in their face. They don't care if Josh Gordon comes in. Well, they do. They don't want him to because they want him to play. They refuse to think, well, this will look bad or this will be bad for our team. If this guy comes in and gets in trouble again, I think Andy believes this just won't affect my team at all. So it's worth the shot. Just know what you're getting. Again, know what you're getting. The city will jump up and down and scream with pom-poms that Josh Gordon is here and this is going to be great and he's going to catch 1 million passes. I think this is more of a long shot than most people believe. I think it's a long shot because even if he is now, if his mental health is good, if his substance abuse is behind him, can he still play football? I don't know. He's not a young man. He's certainly not past his prime, but what kind of shape is he in? Does anybody have any idea? I don't. Is this a January move? Is this, let's get him in here, let's take a couple months, let's get him on the practice squad for a few weeks, let's learn the offense, let's have a security blanket here in case something happens to Tyreek Hill or whatever, and let's get him out there later in the year. I don't know exactly what the strategy is. The Chiefs won't say. My guess is he's not going to be a big contributor, at least for a few weeks, but maybe he's able to get on the field. Josh Gordon, 6-time loser in the NFL, is going to be signed by the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs ought to have a cakewalk this week. They play the Philadelphia Eagles, who stink. They lost 41-21 Monday night to the Cowboys. Cowboys went up and down the field on them. Chiefs should be able to do the same thing. The Eagles are an organization in disarray. I expect the Chiefs to win big on Sunday. We'll have more later in the week. Now, back to my point about big celebrities in Kansas City in the media. And Josh Gordon falls into that a little bit. I'm once again going to say something that you probably don't like. And I may be the only person that says this. But I just believe this to be true. Salvador Perez goes on Chris Rowe's podcast, and they're making a big deal about the fan in Cleveland who caught the 46th home run. 46th home run made Salvador Perez the all-time single-season home run leader for a catcher. We've talked about it for 3 months on this podcast. Salvador Perez says he didn't know until he hit his 42nd or 43rd home run that there was even a chance to set the single season record for catchers, which meant nobody in the organization told him. Nobody in the mainstream media in Kansas City was talking about it. We had it here on the podcast multiple times over and over and over. And I've always wondered in my career if others in the media are avoiding things because they know I'm talking about it. I know that other people in radio always avoided topics that I talked about because I was talking about it. They're like, nope, that's his subject. I'm going to talk about something else. I'm not touching that. That's his. First of all, they didn't want to be controversial. They didn't want to get in any trouble with anybody. But I'm going to get in trouble because if you listen to this podcast, that Salvador Perez is my favorite player. And I think he's a great American success story. And I love Salvador Perez, and I would let him babysit my grandchildren if I had any. I love the man. But for crying out loud, Salvy, pay the fan $10,000 and get your ball. You have an $82 million contract. This is America. What we love about America is this exact story. You can hate that guy. We don't know that guy's life. He goes on the Chris Rose podcast. Chris Rose says, I'm from Cleveland. I'm really sorry. This guy's an a-hole. He should give you the ball. I disagree. I own something. You want it. There's a price for everything. And guess what? I don't want a Salvador Perez bat. I'm a Cleveland fan. Sorry. I didn't hear that the Indians offered him season tickets. Maybe he'd take that. Maybe Salvy doesn't feel like, again, he's paying some guy money. If the Royals work out a deal with the Indians, for crying out loud, John Sherman, the chairman of the Royals, was with the Indians forever, right? Make a call. Get the fans season tickets, good seats, and get the baseball. Don't tell anybody. Just do it behind the scenes. You're the owner of the team. Do it for Salvy. You're paying him $82 million. Get him the ball. Or Salvy, write the check. Everybody's making this fan out to be some complete jerk. I'm watching Fox 4 this morning. They're just hammering on this fan in Cleveland for wanting $10,000 for the ball. Well, come on. Would you expect the guy to give Salvador Perez his car? Would you give away your car to Salvador Perez? I wouldn't. I'm sorry. Maybe a Royals fan, would get all kinds of Salvy swag and say, I'll give you the ball in exchange for the swag. The dude has an historic ball. That's a big deal. The ball's a big deal. They'll want that in Cooperstown. They'll certainly want it in the Royals Hall of Fame. Salvador Perez wants it. It's worth $10,000 for a guy that makes $82 million. I'm sorry. I'm on the other side here. Again, I'm not siding with a Cleveland fan over a Royals player. That's not it at all. It's the principle of the thing. This is the world we live in. That man owns that baseball. That's the way baseball works. He paid his money. He went to the game with no expectation of catching Salvador Perez's ball. He didn't buy his ticket and go to the game to try to catch the ball, but he caught the ball, and he's like, this is a valuable ball. I think I'll hang on. It's only been 10 days or whatever. I think I'll hang on to it for a while. Let's let it play out. The man's going to get paid for the ball. I don't blame him. I do it too. $10,000 seems low to me. It does. It seems low to me. If I had $82 million and I just set the record for home runs by a catcher in Major League Baseball history in a single season, I would just cough up whatever he asked. I want that ball. I hit it. I want it. I want possession of it. It would mean something to me. So let me be the one that's on the outside on this thing. And you can be mad at me for saying that, but I just understand it. I think it's a simple conservative American principle. It's capitalism. It's supply and demand. You have something I want, I'm going to have to pay for it. That is the reason the prices of playing golf are going up. Supply and demand in golf. How about this? The sport of golf this year, in the last year, is up 16% participation in the United States. It is the largest increase in 17 years. We have just gone post Tiger Woods in the sport of golf. It is booming again. COVID brought part of it on. It became a safe place to go get recreation. You can't get tee times. Prices are going up everywhere. It's getting more and more expensive. It's the largest increase in 17 years when Tiger Woods was at his height. Tiger Woods was at the height of his glory then. Golf was booming because of Tiger Woods. This has nothing to do with Tiger Woods. This has to do with good, clean, healthy fun, decent exercise, not great exercise, although if you walk and carry your bag, it is phenomenal exercise. It is in most places even decent exercise if you ride in a cart. Put your pedometer on, go play golf riding a buggy and see how many steps you get in that day. Take note of how many hills you climb. They don't let you park right by where you hit the ball. I mean, courses close off fairways all the time, even when the weather's good. and you're walking all over the place. Cart path only on 6 of the 18 holes, whatever. It is good exercise. It is healthy. It is clean air. It is COVID-free. It's an awesome sport. Nobody's any good at it, so it doesn't matter. It's hard, but that's not the point. It's the only sport where regular people go out and try to play and compare themselves to the pros. Well, I didn't shoot 67. I shot 82. I suck. I can't tell you how many times I've shot 82 and walked away and said that I suck, and I'm so down on my game. There are days that I shoot 82 and I think I'm great, but there's days that you shoot 82 and you think you suck, and most people don't shoot 82. And I shot 85 over the weekend, and I've never felt worse about my golf game. I hit the ball great all day. Hit it off the tee, hit it toward the green. I hit par threes. I three-putted. If it rolled off the green, I couldn't chip it up and down. I couldn't make par to save my butt. It was awful. And I had 4 or 5 birdie putts inside 15 feet. I don't think I touched the cup on any of them. I sucked. It was awful. It was an awful 85. It could have been a 78. It was an 85. That's why golf's hard. That's why we don't do it for a living. But man, it's great fun. And it's 4 hours out in nice weather, typically, and a great day. Just great for the game of golf. Participation in golf up 16%. It's the largest increase in 17 years. If you'd like to see an increase in productivity at your office, the first group that I'd bring out, online at 360documentsolutions.com, Mark Lindquist and his team will set you up with all kinds of things that make you more efficient and cost-effective. Copiers, printers, IT solutions, mailing systems, phone systems. They can get you out of the current leases in your current programs and just make you a more efficient, more productive, more profitable business. They'll do a complimentary analysis. They'd love to come out and take a look at what you're doing. And if you don't hire them, no problem. They walk away. Just give them the opportunity. These are great conservatives who know business. 913-745-5344, online at 360documentsolutions.com. John Hutchins and his team at Amazing Garage Floors are going to be doing some work for me in the next few weeks on my new garage floor. I'm very excited about this. He could seal your driveway this fall for a very low cost and buy you years of life in your concrete, in your sidewalks. Or if you're looking for that amazing garage floor, there's only one place, AmazingGarageFloors.net. 913-901-7139. Elite Automation, designing and installing intelligent building systems that can save you thousands on your utilities. They also work as a consultant for you. If you'd like them to come in and just consult on how to be more efficient and you don't buy anything from them, when you save money, you just share what you save with them. They'll do that as well. These are the experts in saving you money on your utilities at your business, church, school, warehouse, wherever. The bigger the building, the more you'll save. EliteAutomate.com. And Roberts Robinson, Chevrolet Buick GMC in Excelsior Springs. Folks that shop there say we just make it easy, and it's true. Mike Robinson, Tim Trader, my friends on the showroom floor are good guys. You want a good slice of Americana, some good conservative feeling? Go get yourself a great product from GM in Excelsior Springs, Missouri. One of the great conservative communities anywhere in America. Or online at Shop, Click, Drive, robertsrobinson.com. With GMC, we are professional grade. Those are good people. They'll build your car, truck, or SUV for you and send it anywhere that you live, anywhere in the country. They'll do that. robertsrobinson.com. Well, I looked up for the first time today the word disinformation because this is new. And the Democrats, what they're so much better at than conservatives. Conservatives know what we like. We know who we are. We're happy that America was built the way she was built. And I don't think we're against change, but there are certain principles that we stand for that we resist the change completely. The Constitution would be one of them. Democrats aren't that way. So what they do is they always come up with these terms or words like global warming turns into climate change. They're so good at coming up with terms we've never heard because we're too busy living our lives to worry about things that are inconsequential, meaningless, frivolous, to pay much attention. But the word disinformation has been out there long enough now, and I only learned it because Democrats say that the Republicans are full of disinformation, that Donald Trump, disinformation. Donald Trump was great. He just called it fake news. He said the fake news media. That was easy for people to understand. I don't know. I didn't really know exactly the difference between disinformation and misinformation. I've heard misinformation my whole life. That's like calling someone a liar. That's like saying fake news. That's what misinformation, right? That's what you assume that is. Oh, no, we're wrong. Misinformation is you didn't know it, but you accidentally stated something wrong. Misinformation is a mistake that you correct and apologize for. Misinformation is simply putting a fact in a story that was wrong. Patrick Mahomes threw 3 interceptions on Sunday. That's misinformation. He threw 2. Misinformation. Wrong. Disinformation is propaganda. It's fake news. It's deliberately putting out false information. And I'm sitting here looking at my mom calls me and she says, so what is this thing? There's 1.5 trillion for infrastructure. Then there's the debt ceiling. Then there's the reconciliation, which is all the goodies for green climate change, Green New Deal, all this stuff. I'm like, yeah, exactly, Mom. It's all disinformation. They are deliberately putting out fake numbers, fake funding, and fake stories about what they're going to vote on in D.C., and nobody can figure out what's going on. What we know is the Republicans have blocked raising the debt ceiling, which is a must. Sorry, the debt ceiling is a law. It's in place. It's sitting there. Fund the government with that money. The Democrats are in charge in every branch of the government. This is not on the Republicans. But you don't raise the debt ceiling and allow things to just go status quo while they're trying to sneak $5 trillion past you for all of their goodies that they want. So the Republicans are doing the right thing, and I'm just looking at this whole thing going, this is all disinformation. So I finally, last night, I looked, as I was thinking about talking about this on the podcast today, I look up disinformation, and I learned that it is deliberately misinforming people. It's lying. Disinformation is lying. And the Democrats have been playing this against Trump for maybe about a year now. They started it against Trump. They've kept it going against Republicans. They started using this term. It became chic and cool and new, and none of us knew what it meant. None of us really cared. Man, we got to pay attention. When they bust a new word out on us, this is the key to the Democrats' game, and this is why they're better than us. They find a new word, they put it out there, and they accuse Republicans of it. Why do they accuse Republicans of the new term? They accuse the Republicans of the new term because they're doing it. The Democrats are doing it themselves. The second you want to know the Democrats are up to no good with something, look at the term they're using. When they start talking about global warming, we should have known this was to scare people, just like masks and vaccines. They know that scare tactics work. They want Americans to live in fear and believe that they need the government to take care of them, that the nanny state is taking over. That is their entire game plan. Disinformation fits into that. And I can't believe I didn't see it. I can't believe I've waited this long to talk about the word disinformation on this podcast. That's on me for not following what I already believe, but it's hard to pay attention to them. You don't know when one of these words is just going to come and go, but the second they start saying Republicans are using disinformation to do this and this and this. Well, it's not disinformation to say that mail-in balloting is fraudulent. California just passed mail-in balloting for good. Mail-in balloting in the United States, get this, California is going to send mail a ballot to everyone, dead or alive, every address. A ballot goes out. Blank ballots just go out. You fill them out, you send them in, we'll have our election. To me, sitting there saying Trump is spewing this about the elections or whatever, it's disinformation. No, the disinformation is trying to get people to believe that mailing ballots out is even more fraudulent than mailing them in. Mailing them in is awful. When you mail them out, here's what you get. You're asking the United States Postal Service union to handle the ballots. A union where everyone in that organization is in a union. Many of them are members of 3 or 4 unions. 92% of postal workers, of all donations made by postal workers, 92% go to Democrats. So they've got blank ballots by the millions in Democrats' hands going to households for delivery and pickup. And we think this is a good idea. and they say Trump's disinformation about mail-in voting fraud. It's ridiculous. The last thing any normal thinking person in America believes is a secure way to elect our officials is through the United States Postal Service. I don't know one person, being honest, that think that's a good idea. It's just not. That's not secure. It isn't. If we want to go FedEx and use IDs at both points, okay, I'll look at that, but not just dropping ballots at people's houses, collecting them later. You know these ballots aren't getting to everyone's home. It's just so bad. So this is all disinformation, and they do it so much better than conservatives. And apparently they have forever. They want to create chaos and confusion. They want to accuse conservatives of doing what they're doing at every turn. And that's what disinformation is. And where else could you get more disinformation than mail-in ballots or funding the federal government? I could spend the rest of today after the podcast reading up on what the hell Pelosi and Schumer and Biden are trying to do with all this spending, and I couldn't figure it out. I can't. And so we're dumbed down. We're just American citizens sitting here waiting for these buffoons to figure something out and tell us what's good for us. That's what's going to happen. Thank God Mitch McConnell isn't raising the debt ceiling. And color me stupid, but Thursday night at midnight, if they don't raise the debt ceiling, we can't fund everything in the government. This sounds like a great idea to me. Great. Let's shut a whole bunch of stuff in the government down. I'm okay with that. Are you okay with that? We're not going to defund the military. There are a lot of things important that we're not going to defund. What do I care if we defund a bunch of frivolous crap? Let's defund it. How about public television and NPR don't get their funds? How about Planned Parenthood doesn't get their money? I can think of all kinds of places that if they don't get their money, I don't care. Public broadcasting. By the way, what the hell is that? Public broadcasting. The government funds money to Democrat media organizations, PBS and NPR, and pays for it. Our tax dollars pay for one political party to have its own broadcasting networks funded by the government. What is that? What is that? It's just unbelievable. We've lost it so many turns. We have lost it so many turns. I'm at the car wash yesterday afternoon, and I see a gentleman walk out, and he's walking slowly, and it's every stereotype you can imagine. This guy had to be in his 90s. He's got jeans on a hot day. He's got his Skechers. He's got a ball cap on. It's kind of a trucker cap. He's got a oxygen tank over his shoulder. And he sits down kind of next to me. It's in the sun. He's sitting outside instead of in the air conditioning. He's waiting for his car to be done. And what car pulls out? It's like a 1991 Lincoln Town Car. It's old, but it's getting cleaned. And I look at the plate, and the plate is a service member veteran plate. And I look over on the back of his hat, and the little trucker hat part that pulls over and fastens the back says Normandy on it. And I politely thank the gentleman and don't make much conversation. It was a hot day. He was having trouble breathing. He had this machine. I just said, dude, you're incredible. Thank you. And he said, thank you. And I said, I can't promise you anything, but I'm going to do everything I can to make sure we don't lose this place. And he said, thank you. And that was it. That was our entire conversation. And all I could think about was this man in his 90s with a Normandy hat on, what he must think of what's going on with this stuff, with the government and what they're trying to fund, and these people coming across the border, and all of the chaos that's been created in the last 8 months by this administration, the disinformation that is out there. The bait and switch is another word for it, because that's what they do. They've got 3 different budget things right now they're talking about simultaneously. Raising the debt ceiling, the first $1.5 trillion, and then the next $3.5 or $4 trillion. You can't keep track of it. It's mind-boggling. It's what they do. A couple pretty cool videos out there that nobody's talking about. You probably haven't seen them. Project Veritas is a really cool organization, and it would be great if 60 Minutes hired them, and they put these stories on 60 Minutes like 60 Minutes used to do. 60 Minutes, when I was growing up, was real journalism. They did undercover videos. They found people in powerful positions that were lying or abusing their power. They caught them, and they televised it. That's what Project Veritas does now. Project Veritas got 2 separate unknown videos. There were undercover videos. They, generally speaking, go have dinner or drinks with these people, of scientists from Johnson & Johnson. These are people that are the scientists, the big pharma scientists that work on the vaccine, that know all about the vaccine at Johnson & Johnson. Big pharma scientists, really smart people. They work on the vax. They know more about the vaccine than you do, and than I do, and than Biden does. Both of them, undercover, don't know they're being recorded, are laughing and cursing, F words right and left, about trying to give the vaccine to kids. They're like, there ain't no way my kid's getting this shot. No how, no way would I do that to my kid. This thing is unproven. It is unknown. No chance. They're all saying, hey, if I'm a high risk, I'm older, I'm taking the vaccine. But come on, we're in the industry and we know this is not a proven vaccine yet, that this is a trial run. We think it's safe, but we don't know. They're great videos. You can see them. It's at Project Veritas. Also ask yourself this. New York's about to lose what? 30,000 healthcare workers? Because 30,000 healthcare pros have decided they're not taking the shot? Joe Biden knows more than the nurses? We're going to lose nurses? And the governor of New York says she's bringing in the National Guard to come in and act as nurses? Other countries allow you a complete pass on everything if you've had COVID and you prove immunity. You take a $10 test and you say, I've got immunity here. I don't need to get the shot. It's the same as getting the shot. Other countries all over the world do this, but not us. No. Joe Biden on Monday said 98% of Americans need to get vaxxed and then COVID is over. What kind of an idiot is this guy? Where in the hell did he pull 98% out of his ass? 98% of Americans get vaccinated and this thing's over. Well, how about 98% vaccinated or have had COVID? Does that work for you? Because they never say that. 92% of kids in this country get the polio vaccine. COVID is not dangerous for kids. Let me repeat myself. We're at a 92% vaccination rate for polio with kids. And he wants 98% of all citizens. These people are idiots. They're absolute idiots. They're going to carry this thing all the way to next November. You just watch. They're going to keep coming with more and more shots. Then all of a sudden, Pfizer's going to come out with a new vaccine. This one's different. It's new and improved, and it will cover the next wave. Oh, we got to all get this one. You just wait. And if you don't think the world is upside down right now, how about Western Washington University? Western Washington University has followed the lead of American University in Washington, D.C. Who started this? Western Washington University this fall has added Black Affinity housing as an option for its students. What is Black Affinity housing? It's segregation. So since the 1960s, when segregation wouldn't stand, and we had the Civil Rights Act that Republicans passed, pushed for, and voted for in greater numbers than Democrats, since the Republicans passed the Civil Rights Act, 1964, I believe, in the 1960s, since the Republicans passed that, we've now gone full circle in less than 60 years, where we now believe that America is so filled with hate and so toxic, we need to segregate. That's right. Segregation, because segregation is good. Black Affinity housing is an entire dorm or an entire floor of a dorm dedicated just to black people for a warm environment for marginalized identities. We got to create a warm environment for marginalized identities, give them their own floor, their own building, their own whatever. Do these people know how bad segregation is? Yes, they do, because at one point they were against it. But what have they learned? What have they learned more over the last year and a half than anything else? If we can segregate people, if we can divide them, we can win elections. The more we segregate, the more we convince white people that this country is evil to black and brown people, the more we can separate and segregate people, the more elections we will win. That is always what it's about. Black Affinity housing is about winning elections. There is nothing good that comes from this. The same people that have run around and said, America's a melting pot, she's beautiful because we're all in this together, we're a great experiment, and we should all, these same people run around and say, we should all have acceptance and openness to everyone, regardless of age, gender, sexual preference, color of your skin, religion. We should all just be accepting. These same people now want to segregate you based on your race because of a warm environment they can create for you on your own floor or in your own dorm. This is a horrific idea. This is designed to incite. This is designed to create conflict. This is designed to segregate. It is a horrible idea, and they're really good at this stuff. They really, truly are. Kevin Keatsman Has Issues is produced every day as a production of Crooked Tail Media Incorporated. If you would like to become a patron of Kevin Keatsman Has Issues, go to kkhasissues.com and sign up for as little as $5 a month. Get your 3 bonus podcasts every week and the newsletter and special events. It's all for very little money. If you'd like to get additional content, join us at kkhasissues.com. If not, just hit that like or follow button and please tell your friends about the podcast and help them download it, get it up on their app, however they want to listen to it, and have them hit like or follow as well. You're doing us a great service if you did that. As always, we appreciate you giving the opportunity to our sponsors to earn your business. That's all any of our sponsors ask for, is the opportunity to earn your business. They don't expect anything. They don't expect it's a given because you give them a call and you listen to this podcast. These guys are, business owners are tremendous American patriots, salt of the earth, conservative people who are going to work hard for you and do right by you. They will earn your business. That's the way it should work. We appreciate you giving them the opportunity. At Kevin Keatsman Has Issues.